One can cover millions of kilometers in a lifetime and barely scratch the surface of the places one has seen, or learn little of the people one has just met. The deeper sense of traveling lays in stopping to listen to whoever has a story to tell. By walking, one learns more about life. By walking, people meet each other. By walking, the wounds of the day before are healed. Go walking to find a star, to hear a voice, if and when you meet the footprints of others. Go walking to look for life, healing the injuries left by its pains. Nothing can wipe away the memories of the paths you have traveled.
We are in modern China, the immense continent 30 times the size of England, populated by 1.3 billion people. This is the country of the Forbidden City, of the Great Wall, and of the skyscrapers of Hong Kong. But it is not about these places that we want to talk. Ours is the story of a voyage towards remote lands, towards infinite spaces, into the most complete solitude, in search of the second highest peak of the world, the mountain K2, called Chougir Feng by the Chinese.
This world-famous mountain, 8,611 meters in height, rises in the Karakoram Mountains in the northwestern part of the Himalayan chain. It is situated between China and the part of Kashmir which is controlled by Pakistan. The K2 rises as a gigantic, perfect pyramid. Because of this characteristic, the mountaineers consider it the Mountain of Mountains, an incarnation of elegant form and maximum technical difficulty. The 300-kilometer-long mountainous chain that separates the Karakoram Mountains from the Indian plain of the Punjab creates the most arid and rigid climate of this Himalayan region.
Climbing the K2 is much more difficult and strenuous than climbing Mount Everest. As of today, only 298 people, of whom 11 are women, have made it to the peak, a small number compared to the more than 3,000 who have reached the top of Mount Everest. The numerous steep and complicated passages, the extreme cold, and the unpredictable climate with its frequent dangerous snowstorms make the ascent of the mountain the most difficult in the world. The north side, which lies in Chinese territory, is the least explored or visited, because the controlling authorities complicate the way to the peak with bureaucratic obstacles. If we add to this the complete isolation, the difficult logistics, and the risk of flooded river crossings, it's easy to guess why only the boldest adventurers take this path.
The rise along the north edge, 4,000 meters of rock and ice that point steeply to the top, is perhaps one of the most interesting routes in all the Himalayas. The first success in reaching the top of K2 by this route was not until 1982 and required a large Japanese expedition. Before this time, no one had ever succeeded. Recently, in 1992, a new approach was inaugurated, the Northwest Route, which follows the 1982 route for its last leg.
Our way leads us through one of the most unknown and less frequented areas on Earth, which was open to foreigners only recently. The expedition has been extremely difficult from the first to the last day. The strain of the altitude, the monotony, the insufficiency of the food, and the lack of fuel to warm the most frugal dinners at an altitude of 4,000 meters takes their toll. it's impossible to wash oneself with even slightly warm water, and the whole camp must be set up in the dark of night and disassembled in the cold of morning every single day. Frost and wind have also been constant companions on the journey, but each moment has shown us striking beauty, filled our spirits with tranquility, and given us almost mystic experiences.
We fly from Russia to Bishkek, capital of Kyrgyzstan, to depart again in the direction of Kashgar, the ancient caravan city along the legendary Silk Road. Here, another 2-day journey awaits us, the crossing of the mythical Torugart Pass, defined by Lonely Planet as the most difficult frontier of the world. It divides Xinjiang in China and Kyrgyzstan at an altitude of 3,800 meters. Here, the Chinese bureaucracy forces us into a long and aggravating stay before giving us permission to cross.
The ancient city of Kashgar was famous as the biggest commercial city along the Silk Road. A cultural center for the Uyghur people, it has been called the Uyghurs' secret capital. Once adorned with airy wooden houses, Kashgar appeared to be stuck in an earlier time. In recent years, on the excuse of earthquake security, the Chinese authorities have replaced the ancient houses with modern city structures. They have also destroyed large parts of the historic city center, which included a school for Quran scholars dating back to the 11th century. Now, as in ancient times, there is a bazaar filled with spices, fruit, dust, people, and voices. And on Sundays, the cattle market becomes a sea of sheep and goats, oxen and horses. The pulsing and busy life of the city and its people can be felt on any corner and street. We leave again at dawn towards places that gradually become more empty and deserted. The way passes between leaning rocks in the valleys, dug out mercilessly by the river's fury, which, in the flood months, thrashes the embankments. High walls of limestone debris flank our passing between a natural landscape that appears totally alien.
Two high passes wait for us, until in the middle of late evening we arrive at the Chinese checkpoint. The previous script recurs: the most meticulous governmental inspections and more hours of waiting. We must show them our photo and video cameras, of which the authorities scrupulously note the serial numbers. We continue to wait without knowing the reason, until suddenly the situation becomes resolved. Then, in deep darkness, we set up our tents. We have entered a military zone, and we realize that from here on, if anything happens, no one will be able to help us.
The first day of trekking already offers wonders to us. After a few hours of walking, a spectacular canyon opens at our feet, Xinjiang.
The warm colors of the rock that surrounds us make the spectacle serene and joyful. The camels, our faithful companions on the journey, on whom we have loaded luggage, tents, and food, walk fast on the shoal of the river. We can hardly manage to keep up with them. They are Bactrian camels, bigger, stronger, and more unpredictable than their relatives who live in the deserts.
One needs to be an experienced camel driver to lead them. Several times we have climbed on top of the camels and on top of our luggage when crossing the rivers. Deep water is something to be scared of. It would have been impossible to anticipate the journey because, with the melting of the snow, the water in the river has become abundant and reckless, and floods the whole valley, hampering our advancement.
After the second day, we notice that there isn't a living soul anywhere. We seem to have entered another world. Only a few predatory birds circle above us.
We move forward along infinite canyons, which solitary valleys lead into, and then disappear into the void. There is a profound silence that seems to fill our ears. Only the howling of the wind and the sound of the water manage to violate it. Immense walls of sandstone dominate us with a dark appearance, while, in the distance, the snow-clad tops of the mountains make us think of the infinite.
Surprisingly, we see shepherds riding toward us on their donkeys. Now, in autumn, they are moving to the lower valleys.
The branches of the rivers pour in blue and transparent, like lazy snakes sleeping in the sun. The stones at our feet are